The morning began with a buzz that electrified the entire studio of The View. The producers had hyped the day's guest for weeks. Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex, seated at the famous table for a frank conversation about his new memoir, his life in America, and his views on media freedom. The audience lined up outside the Manhattan studio long before sunrise, chattering about what might unfold. Harry was a controversial figure. Some adored him for breaking away from the monarchy, others saw him as ungrateful. And the women of The View were notorious for never holding back. As the lights came up, the iconic theme music rolled, and the audience clapped thunderously. Whoopi Goldberg, seated in the middle as moderator, leaned forward with her trademark calm presence, introducing the hot topics before moving quickly to the main event. "We've got a very special guest today," she said, pausing for the cheers. "He's no stranger to the headlines, but today he's here to speak for himself. Please welcome Prince Harry." Harry walked out in a dark navy blazer, open-collared shirt, looking both confident and guarded. The audience erupted, some rising for a standing ovation, others booing faintly under the roar. He smiled politely, waving, but his jaw tightened when he sat. At first, the discussion was smooth. Sonny Hostin asked about his mental health advocacy, and he responded thoughtfully, explaining how therapy had changed his life. Sarah Haynes inquired about fatherhood, and he softened, describing bedtime stories with Archie and Lilibet. Joy Behar, ever direct, asked about his relationship with King Charles. The room tensed, but Harry answered with careful diplomacy, saying, "Family is complicated, as we all know. Love doesn't just vanish." The audience clapped. Then it was Whoopi's turn. She adjusted her glasses, leaned back, and studied him with a penetrating gaze. "Harry," she began, "you talk about wanting privacy, but you've also released a tell-all memoir. You've got Netflix specials, interviews, podcasts. Some people are saying, you don't really want privacy. You want control of the narrative. How do you respond to that?" Harry stiffened. "There's a difference between privacy and intrusion," he said firmly. "Wanting to share my truth on my own terms doesn't mean I've forfeited the right to set boundaries. The British tabloids never respected that." Whoopi raised her brows. "But the American press isn't the British tabloids. You came here. You came to Hollywood. Did you expect something different?" The crowd murmured. Harry's voice hardened. "Yes, I expected honesty. I expected people to care about facts, not fabrications. But sometimes I see the same exploitation here that drove my mother to her grave." Gasps filled the audience. Joy muttered, "Wow," under her breath. Whoopi didn't flinch. "You're invoking your mother, which is serious. But, Harry, your mother also understood the press. She used it when she needed to. Isn't it possible you're doing the same?" The atmosphere changed. Harry's polite veneer cracked. He sat forward, eyes blazing. "Don't you dare equate my mother's courage with cheap opportunism. She was hunted like prey. And if you think I'm using the press, you're blind to the trauma I lived through." The audience went silent, a heavy tension filling the room. Whoopi, unshaken, replied calmly, "I'm not blind, Harry. I'm asking the questions millions are asking. You sit here in front of our cameras, you've chosen this spotlight. Why, if it hurts you so much?" Harry's accent sharpened as anger overtook him. "Because silence is worse. Because if I don't speak, lies win. And I won't allow my children to inherit the same cycle of abuse." A woman in the audience shouted, "Yes," and clapped. Others booed. The room was now a cauldron of emotion. Joy tried to diffuse the tension with a joke. "Well, I think Meghan should have come with him. Maybe she'd keep him calm." The audience laughed nervously. Harry didn't. He turned toward Whoopi again, voice rising. "What gives you the right to question my motives? You weren't there. You didn't walk behind your mother's coffin while millions watched in silence. You didn't have cameras shoved into your school, your car, your bedroom window." The studio grew hotter, as if the very lights intensified. Whoopi spoke slowly, deliberately. "You're right, I didn't. But you're here, on my show, and we ask tough questions. If you can't handle that, maybe you shouldn't be here." The audience gasped, a mix of cheers and shocked exclamations. Harry's face flushed red. He slammed his hand on the table, rattling the mugs. "How dare you dismiss my pain as if it's just content for your program?" Security shifted at the edge of the stage, unsure whether to intervene. Whoopi leaned closer, voice low but sharp. "Nobody's dismissing your pain, but you came here to be challenged, not coddled." That was the breaking point. Harry pushed back his chair with a screech that echoed. "Then perhaps this was a mistake," he snapped, standing. The producers scrambled. Sunny called, "Wait, Harry, we still want to hear," but he ignored her. The audience erupted into chaos, some booing, others shouting support. Whoopi raised her hand for silence, but the cameras caught every second of Harry storming toward the wings. A stage manager tried to guide him, but he shrugged the hand off angrily, muttering, "Unbelievable," as he disappeared. The shot cut awkwardly back to the table. The host sat in stunned silence for a beat. Whoopi finally sighed and said, "Well, that happened." Nervous laughter bubbled from the audience. Joy fanned herself dramatically, "I need a drink." They cut to commercial. But backstage, the drama continued. Harry paced furiously, demanding his team leave immediately. Meghan, who had been waiting quietly off stage, hurried to his side, whispering, trying to calm him. "You don't need this, H. Let's go." He shook his head, still trembling with anger. Meanwhile, the producers argued with Whoopi about whether to bring him back. She stood firm. No. He walked out. That's on him. When the show returned from break, the panel addressed the incident. Sarah said softly, "I think Harry's pain is real. We should acknowledge that." Sunny nodded, "Yes, but we also ask tough questions. That's the point of this table." Joy cracked another joke to ease the tension, but Whoopi simply looked into the camera and said, "He wanted the platform. He got it." Sometimes the truth burns. By the time the credits rolled, the story had already hit social media. Clips of Harry slamming the table trended within minutes. Half the internet called him courageous for standing up to media bullies, the other half mocked him as thin-skinned and spoiled. Outside, paparazzi swarmed as Harry and Meghan left the building, faces grim, ignoring shouted questions. Whoopi exited later, calm as ever, telling reporters, "Look, he'll be fine. He's a prince. I'm just a talk show host." But inside the studio halls, whispers buzzed. No guest had ever stormed out so dramatically. Not even politicians. The clash between Prince Harry and Whoopi Goldberg would be replayed endlessly, dissected on news channels and blogs, each side claiming victory. But for those who were in that room, the memory was raw and unforgettable, the day the Duke of Sussex was kicked off The View after a fiery clash no one had seen coming.